Okay, hello, welcome back to, I guess this is becoming Olivia Talks. So today I heard one of my sprint leaders, last week was my sprint, but the week before last, I was on a team and there was another sprint lead and we worked on understanding issues related to returning citizens. So people coming back into society from prison, right? Okay. So today, the person who led the sprint lead told us, they gave us like an hour experience where they shared their like life story, things that they've learned, their experiences, their educational experiences, programs that they've run, programs that they've that they support, initiatives that they're like interested in supporting. Anyway, it became really clear to me like the power of community. And so one thing I wanted to talk about, and I feel like I talk about this quite a lot, but it's just been something that's been sitting with me recently, and I just think this is a good time to actually talk about it and make space for myself to have opinions about it on the internet. So this is going to be on generational wealth in the Black community and reasons why I think there's a lack thereof. So I think one really important thing about community that is important is that community involves people, community involves infrastructure, like businesses, organizations, buildings, transportation systems, like cities. It's almost like this organization of systems and cities. And I talked a bit in my other video about the theory of change, but I think that that's important in relation to what it's important when I'm thinking about the lack of generational wealth in the Black community, at least in terms of what I see. Like when I look at my like white peers, people who are like my age, people who I've gone to certain institutions with, or that like I've done, fellowships with, things like that, they usually aren't starting from zero. Like in all of their experiences, they're starting from where their parents left off. And so recently, on Monday, it was International Women's Day, and I was in a clubhouse room that was really focused on Asian female leadership, and there were many experiences shared in that room by Asian women across Asia. So there were some experiences from Japanese women, Chinese women, Malaysian women, Indian women. And some of the stories were about the American immigrant experience and starting from nothing, like coming out of poverty, and lessons that they are able to teach their children as second generation American immigrants. Other stories were about building upon legacy that is already created, mostly in China. So these were women who were talking about being housewives in China and like continuing on their husband's familial legacy, mostly by like having a male child and like how important that was to the family. So today I also listened to an interview by Sista Soljo, who wrote the book The Coldest Winter Ever. For me, and as for a lot of people I think in the Black urban community, The Coldest Winter Ever and Fly Girl by Omar Tyree were like real young adult novels that were like integral to our like childhood experiences, that really told these stories of like adolescence and like neighborhood drama, like growth out of the sort of like drug life, really like criminality in all of its instances. And she talked about a new novel that she has coming out and talked about how it's going to be an audiobook on Audible, and how Nia Long is going to be the narrator of the book. And she explained why the selection of Nia Long was important, because in the Black urban community and really the Black American community, Nia Long is like a fly girl, right? And she has been for a very long time. And like, she really like embodied, like the entire community, you know, understands like Love Jones and the impact and significance of that film, what it meant to us, what it means to be young and Black and in urban America. I think all of those things are like equally important in telling that story. Anyway, one of the way that novel ends, The Coldest Winter Ever, it ends with, it's basically about the protagonist who's the daughter of like a really major drug dealer, and she gets caught up in this like drug life and relationships, and anyway, she does like 15 years in prison. The sequel novel is about what she does when she comes out of prison, and I believe it has something to do with starting a reality television show. Now, imagine having to build a legacy off of a prison sentence. Like, what, you're almost starting from -0 because you have like a felony record, which like makes a lot of public resources unavailable to you. And then imagine competing with your peers who are possibly starting from some wealth or privileges that were generated by their parents. Now, I think this is something, for some reason, a lot of like Black Americans don't understand. Like, you know, basically, like, what if you survive as a Black person in America until the age of 18 and you're actually able to have a child, like, there are quite a lot of lessons that you've like learned about like just survival and infrastructure in general. And I just wonder why more people don't take away from that experience really like how valuable like life is from that point. Like, hopefully by the time that you are 18, you know, you are living in a home that your family purchased or that your family's paying a mortgage on. You know, if you have the luxury to go to college, then once you graduate from college, hopefully you can take on your parents' mortgage, like, or, you know, get your own and start a life and a family of your own. Now, some of the issues I see in the Black community are so many of the men are caught up in street life and criminality and criminal behavior and drugs and like sex addiction and trauma, violence, and I guess a lack of understanding in terms of like the way American capitalism works and economics, and specifically what that means in relation to themselves and how they want to earn a living for themselves, and what that means in like the larger context of things. Like, I feel like if you actually get to the point where you understand competition, you understand what mastery means, especially like mastery in terms of skills and ability. Like, if you are really good at something, like maybe that's storytelling, maybe it's like convincing other people, maybe it's like building relationships, maybe it's building a certain, like using a certain tool or technology. If you work with that thing for like long enough, you will gain mastery. And like that's like the big idea, right, around like higher education. Like, build these institutions which are like knowledge warehouses, bring people into these institutions as, you know, like open minds, and then frame those minds with critical thinking skills and hard skills where they can go out into society and like improve society as it is. But I feel like that entire idea and system is like foreign for some reason to Black America, especially when I talk to people who I went to elementary school with or middle school with, or even I feel like I start to understand my own family's like understanding of that context. It seems so foreign. Like, specifically when there's this idea around like individualism and competition between other members of the Black community. Like, I feel like the Black community is so small in terms of like percentages, right? Like, there's just not that many Black people in America in general, right? Like, yes, there's a continent of Africa where there's like a ton of Black people, and these Black people do stuff and they have opinions, and they, you know, there's like, you know, wealthy people in Africa and there's really poor people in Africa. But we're talking about America. right now, and there's just not that many Black people in America in general. And so when you have such a large percentage of the Black people here who are a part of like criminality and really sort of like these counterculture lifestyles that aren't a part of American capitalism and don't promote longevity or intergenerational wealth or really like racial respect. Like, I do understand that we're trying to ascend beyond race, but race is a thing and it is critical in terms of like American ideology. And so just as a member of the like Black racial group, I just feel like an affinity to speak on it, because I personally am tired of being like tokenized in white spaces and feeling like I am the, you know, really wondering like, why am I the only person who's here? And like, why do people keep asking me to speak about and share my experiences doing certain things when these things should be normal for like way more Black people? And I feel like one of the most challenging things is like the challenge, even in terms of like communication, right? For me and my family, having conversations about generational wealth was really hard. Like, I tried to schedule family meetings every Sunday where we would come together, we would talk about our financial assets, our liabilities, how we wanted to like distribute the wealth, what our long-term and short-term plans were like insurance, things like that. And really the other members of my family had no interest in having those conversations. It was like they had no interest in actually like accumulating wealth. I guess they were just like happy with being poor, or just even the idea of like surviving in capitalist America. Like, my brother was way more excited about like renting a room from another family than he was about his possible inheritance of $1 million home. Like, I feel like he's so stupid. Like no one, there's no person who I feel like I work with or who I'm friends with who I feel like would feel that way. Like, that's actually really dumb. That's really dumb. Like, who actively chooses to like pay rent? Like, it's like a positive thing. Like, I understand if you have to, because like, you know, like your family is not providing for you, so you have to provide for yourself. But even the people who are renting seem to have like a goal to want to like buy a home and like ownership. You know, it's like, oh, am I going to just like rent a dog, or don't I just like want the animal for myself, right? It's like, I don't want to rent a dog. It's like renting a pair of sneakers or something. Like, sneakers, you know, cost maybe like $75. Just buy the sneakers, right? Then you use them as much as you want. Like, I've had these sneakers for, you know, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something. I'm really happy with them. I can wear them whenever I want. I put them wherever I want. I do with them what the fuck I want to do with them, because they're my sneakers, right? Like, I don't understand what it is about like America for sale that is like not clear in the Black community. Like, all the things are for sale. It just so happens that for some reason Black people are only interested in depreciating assets: shoes, cars, makeup, hair weave, music. What about the assets that actually like accumulate wealth? Businesses, homes, families. Ugh. I don't know. Farms, honestly. And I guess because I've been thinking on a systems level for like a few weeks now, it's just really made me realize like my place in the system of like almost like Black American criminality and like counterculture. It's almost like my mere existence is a counter to counterculture. And it's like almost like an antithesis to like whatever the stereotypes are that are propagated via media about what a Black American female is. I think maybe I just want to continue for a year or maybe 2 years walking through the world as like the apathetic black girl who does nothing more than just sit around and be apathetic about life. The sad girl. So that's all I have. That's the riff for today.